But what defines the mutant? It's not the lack of the penis. It's not the lack of the phallus. It's the production of that phallus gone wrong. It's the usage of this certain phallus called the technology that has gone all wrong and has produced a radical source of evil, the mutant here. The strange thing about mutation here is that mutation could lead either to a loss of the penis, like if you watch Cronenberg's The Fly, the penis of the character falls off and so on. So the mutant basically have no more penis. But then there are also another kind of mutant, like for example tentacle hentai, where they sprout numerous amounts of penis. So instead of losing the penis, they sprout numerous amounts of these crazy long penises and so on. So basically here we have a very strange shift from we are afraid from losing our penis to the castration complex, and we are now shifting to what Catherine Hales called the mutation complex, and that is one of the primary signals of the posthuman, as Hales put it. There's a more interesting notion of this that I would like also to point out here, is that women in the past aren't all that. They are also the primary source of our the universal beauty that we in the classical painting and so on. The woman provides this transcendent realm of beauty and so on. We no longer have that today. I mean, we no longer have that transcendent beauty, the transcendent notion of beauty. But what do we dream of today, basically? Yeah, basically a mutation that has gone right instead of wrong. So the contingency of mutation here becomes also a source of fascination, as is the castration becomes a source of fascination. Mutation also becomes a source of fascination. So we no longer look to a woman for she is so beautiful, the beauty is transcendent and so on. But now we look to mutated figures to look for this beauty. Very concrete examples: superheroes are all mutants, and they're people like them because they can do these crazy shit. Even though they are still perfectly human, they have to have that human side. And of course a more concrete notion would be photoshopery, of digital retouching of those photos. Why do we not take real photos of real women as the utmost beauty? It is because we don't take the real beauty as the beauty of real women anymore, but we take the real beauty, the transcendent beauty, as the beauty of the mutant. That's why we love Photoshop. So this generally means that we now are attracted to things that are not real. You're no longer attracted to women that are chaste plump, those pictures of women that are painted in classical paintings. No, you're attracted to those lesbian nymphos in porn movies. You just can't stop to have it. Well, why are you attracted to them? It's basically not because they are women who with transcendent beauty. It's because they're mutants. They're mutants in the sense that porn is not realistic. Porn is elevated into that kind of sexual utopia. That kind of sexual utopia that these porn stars are elevated as mutants into those sexual utopias. You can endure such pain. You can endure such numerous amounts of insertion with all these weird stuff and all the cum shots and so on. You have all those extreme gonzo figures. So now it becomes clear, doesn't it, why we take all these crazy fetishes to be more and more common, and why are there proliferating such kinds of stuff in the darkest realms of the internet, like macrophilial snuff or scat porn, scatological orgies, and pedophiliac furries and so on. Well, it now becomes natural, isn't it? Once we look at it this way, hey, they're all mutants. They're all just the basically the same notion of transcendent beauty. We come now to the fourth part of my lecture, on the politics problem, the future of pornotopia. Okay, so we now basically understand, I hope you now understand that our sexuality is actually evolving with technology. But then let's put this notion into Arse Elektronika's main theme, which is that sexuality also drives technology. So basically now what we have here is a constant feedback loop. It's a non-linear function. It's a feedback loop that says, okay, sexuality drives technology and technology drives sexuality in turn. So now what we have in a feedback loop is basically something a lot more complex than linearity. So now it would be naive to say that, to think that our future will be just sunshine and daffodils, like, oh, okay, we're safe, Web 3.0 without any harm and so on. No, I think, especially with the notions of today's liberal politics, political correctness and so on, to accept otherness and so on, I think the demand would be not to use these technologies only for the sake of enhancing our own pleasure, but people will rise up and say, what about using technology to help all those sexual minority groups that are in need, that cannot actually explore their sexuality as well as us? Why don't we use these technologies instead of focusing funds on technologies to make better and better vibrators? Why don't we focus funds on making, for example, a very crude, obscene one would be to make sterile excrements for coprophiliacs, or to make clones of bodies for snuff fans. Lifeless bodies could be, you just chuck them to snuff fans. They could explore their sexuality by chopping up that body. Okay, no life is harmed and everything goes perfectly well. Because here we have in all this permissive liberal political correctness, we have here a certain injunction to continuously give way to minority otherness. What we don't realize here is, of course, that maybe we are the ones who created those minority sexual groups in the first place, maybe with technology and so on. But with this kind of feedback loop, what would happen is presumably that we will be demanded, morally obliged, to create these kinds of nightmarish stuff. Well, now we would call it nightmarish. These nightmarish stuff, which means our future may be full of sterile experimental stuff for scat parties and so on. And then to take this back to our primary notion that this technology drives sexuality, what would happen if women now go to consultations not to consult that, oh, I cannot enjoy sex with my partner and so on, like the traditional women. Now they no longer do that, as Autumn Tersalvia's talk in last year's Arse Elektronika, maybe she's here. And the curious thing about today's sexual consultation is that they no longer ask those kinds of stuff, but they ask, how can I enjoy anal sex? How could I enjoy this kind of sex? How could I enjoy this kind of position while being safe? How is the way to actually tie each other up without hurting each other too much? What is the proper BDSM technique and so on? I mean, the whole point is that this would be absolutely unthinkable in 20 years ago. I mean, these guys were bizarre fetishes. And then you might want to ask yourself, if that is popular, and if in the future sex has lost even the most